Thank you, Presiding Officer. Independence is a worthy goal in and of itself. For Greens, we believe that bringing power closer to people is worthwhile. But we certainly believe, and I know the SNP colleagues do as well, that we want these powers, the powers of independence, for a purpose, because we believe that our nation can achieve so much more with the powers of a normal independent nation. We can be fairer, greener and more democratic. And the process of establishing that new nation is a hugely exciting opportunity. It's an opportunity to discuss and to decide and to enshrine our founding values. Who do we aspire to be as a nation? And in Scotland, the sovereignty lies with the people, not with Parliament. That is a radical and an ancient tradition, and it's one that we'll honour with a process that allows the people to write the Constitution, not just the politicians. Because too often for people across the UK, politics feels like something that's done to them, not something that we all do together. That is what Westminster is to me, a politics done to people. And an independent Scotland is our opportunity to do politics differently, to do politics together as a people. And for Greens, we see a huge opportunity in these fundamental questions of democracy, like who our head of state should be. We're told, of course, that the British monarchy is an appropriate head of state because it's neutral and doesn't interfere in our politics. But that's not the case. They're exempt from police searches. We can't search their properties for the loot of centuries of British imperialism. They're exempt from equalities legislation, so their staff can't take them to court if they're mistreated. They're exempted from inheritance tax. And, of course, now we have the ludicrous spectacle of the heir to the throne claiming to dedicate himself to ending homelessness whilst committing a fraction of what his family should have paid in tax to that cause. His dad claims that he's committed to tackling the climate crisis, but of course their family's lands in Scotland are exempt from various bits of climate legislation, like the Heat Networks Bill. An independent Scotland can follow the wave of Commonwealth nations who are switching to an elected head of state. We just need to look to our nearest neighbour in Ireland for an example of how astounding individuals can come forward for that position. Mary McAleese, Mary Robinson, the incumbent Michael D. Higgins, who I think gave possibly the greatest speech ever heard in this Parliament. Independence is about democracy above all else. We'll root our new nation in that principle from top to bottom, and we can enshrine the powers exercised at local level. This is not just about creating another sovereign parliament like Westminster here at Holyrood. It's about empowering our communities as well, because we need democratic renewal. We certainly need rid of the House of Lords. If it wasn't thoroughly discredited before this week, the revelations that MI5 officers had to warn Boris Johnson not to appoint Evgeny Lebedev to the Lords, only for him to ignore them, should surely destroy any credibility that that institution still has. And that was hardly the first scandal, whether it's cash for honours or the appointment of donors and hangers-on for decades and centuries. Writing a constitution is an opportunity for us to be bold in guaranteeing the rights that are needed by people and by planet. We can enshrine the right to healthcare and protect the status of our NHS. We can enshrine the right to strike and to protest, fundamental rights required for any group of people to genuinely be free, but which are under attack by the UK government right now. We have one party of government in the UK attacking those rights, and the other party either supporting them or at best abstaining and committing not to repeal them once they've been passed. The people, through our constitution, will constrain the power of both Parliament and government in an independent Scotland, and Parliament's role in relation to government will be made clear. Major decisions like declarations of war should absolutely be passed by Parliament rather than through the executive power of a government. There are few inequalities in Scotland as long or unequal as the huge concentration of land ownership in very, very few hands. That's exactly the kind of issue that we could tackle with our constitution. We just need to look to international examples like in Brazil, whose constitution requires land and property to fulfil a social function. We could look at New Zealand's ban on nuclear weapons, the Swiss model of direct democracy. There are so many inspiring examples, exciting examples of the kind of nation that an independent Scotland could be, and I'm excited for us to take the first steps on that journey.